Chapter 1. Immortal Fate. You are listening at FameTV.info. Chapter 1. Immortal Fate Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios in Pingyang Town, one of the many small towns under the jurisdiction of Xianxia City that belonged to the country of Deqi. A group of cavalry gradually entered the town. The leader was clad in armor and wearing a firm and resolute expression. He was Chao Gang, one of the 5 wolf guards of Xianxia City. The other individual was a young man with clear, bright eyes and delicate features. He wore a green robe and exuded a strong scholarly aura. The young man's name was Su Zimo, the second young master of the Su family in Pingyang Town. He was a famous household name, having passed the provincial examination at the young age of 17. Second young master Su is different from the other scholars that I know of. You may look frail, but you have excellent writing skills. They are as good as that of my guards. Chao Gang said. Lord Chao is too generous with your praise. Su Zimo gave a faint smile. My elder brother has been in the business of selling horses for a long time. Horses have been my companion since I was a child. I have some foundation. Moreover, Zhui Feng is quite spiritual. Having said that, Su Zimo patted the fine horse that he was riding. That horse by the name of Zhui Feng seemed to have understood Su Zimo's praise. It looked up and responded with a snort, revealing an intelligent gleam in its eye. This moment, loud noises could be heard nearby. Someone was shouting, "Big news! I heard that girl of the Shen family has been chosen by the immortals. She is going to be accepted into the immortal sect." The girl in the Shen family. Which Shen family? It's Shenmunchi. The one who is in marriage talks with second young master Su. The news had spread rapidly. The people in the surrounding area were already beginning to discuss this. Many people were casting peculiar looks at Su Zimo, immortal. Su Zimo murmured quietly. His knowledge of immortals still remained at those in the illusory legends. Would humans possess the power to summon wind and rain, burn the sky and boil the sea? If he did not see it with his own eyes, Su Zimo did not believe that immortals existed in this word. At the sound of the word, immortal, Chao Gang's body quivered. He wore a strange expression, worry and fear flashed across his eyes. However, Su Zimo did not notice this as he was frowning deep in his own thoughts. At this very moment, a beam of light suddenly flashed across the sky with lightning speed. Just as it flew across Su Zimo's head, it reversed and stopped in mid-air. Everyone looked up instinctively. They could see 3 people standing in the air without any form of support. Seemingly, invisible powers were holding on to them. Su Zimo's expression changed slightly. Immortal, ordinary mortals would neither understand nor come into contact with such skills. The immortal has made its presence. Immortal, please bestow us your blessings. The impenetrable and dense crowd knelt and kowtowed at the same time. They were muttering prayers, their faces full of fear and reverence. Chao Gang was extremely quick in his movement. He alighted from the horse and knelt on the ground, shouting loudly, Xianxia City's commoner, Chao Gang, pays respect to the immortal. Su Zimo was shocked by Gao Gang's action. As one of the 5 wolf guards, Chao Gang had extreme power and authority within hundreds of miles of radius from Xianxia City. Yet, upon seeing the immortal, he knelt to him without any hesitation. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo was sticking out like a sore thumb on his horse. He looked extremely catching in the black sea of people who were all kneeling. There was pressure everywhere. Su Zimo was silent for a moment. He leaped down from Zhui Feng and looked up. In mid-air, the man in the middle of the trio was dressed in a long turquoise robe. He looked cold and aloof. His pair of long and narrow eyes gazed at the people below his feet, emitting an overbearing aura of arrogance from between his brows. Beside the turquoise-robed man stood a man and a woman, both from Pingyang Town. The man's name was Zhou Dingyun. He was the most infamous rogue in the town who bullied men, ravished women and carried out all sorts of evildoings. 2 years ago, Su Zimo sent him to prison. Now, that turquoise-robed man had taken him out of prison. Su Zimo frowned slightly. Given Zhou Dingyan's temperament and conduct, he could have a chance to enter the immortal sect as well. If Zhou Dingyan were to become an immortal, how many people would suffer as a result? Su Zimo's gaze turned to the young girl standing mid-air. The young girl's name was Xianxia. At a prime age of 16, her complexion was fairer than snow and she exuded a natural and gentle charisma. Su Zimo had deciphered Xianxia's intent through her eyes. Their once promise had become so vulnerable in the face of the legendary immortal fate. Su Zimo did not expect to see such a scene when the two met again. One was high and mighty in heaven and the other was standing on mortal ground. Xianxia was also gazing at Su Zimo, a man that she had once admired so greatly. Once, Su Zimo was invincible in her heart. Enlightened at 3 years old, proficient with the 4 books and 5 classics at 7 years old, passed the college examination at 12 years old and completed the provincial examination at 17 years old. Such a talent was unprecedented in the country of Dachi. He would definitely become a giant among men in the future. Under the intervention of elder young master Su Zimo had never learned martial arts. Even so, Xianxia believed that Su Zimo would also be able to rise in the official rankings if he were to pick up martial arts. However, Xianxia discovered that she had been wrong. Su Zimo's achievements ultimately belonged to the mortal world. It was not worth a mention in the eyes of the immortals. It was just an opportunity and she was already qualified to look down on Su Zimo. Mortal, why aren't you kneeling? All of a sudden, the sound of this interrogation exploded by Su Zimo's ears like thunder striking across the ground. Dizzy and numb, he almost fell to the ground. He did not mind kneeling to the legendary immortal. However, the attitude of the turquoise-robed man was too much like that of a bully. It triggered feelings of injustice in Su Zimo's heart. These feelings of injustice arose from the resoluteness in Xianxia's eyes, the doubts on the immortal's criteria on choosing disciples and his own pride. Su Zimo took a deep breath and suppressed the annoyance in his heart. He said loudly, I have received scholarly honors all my life. I can even choose not to kneel to the ruler of Dachi. Why do I have to kneel to you? The more you wanted me to kneel, the more I refused to. The so-called scholarly honors were of course Su Zimo's excuses. Shrouded by the domineering aura of the turquoise-robed man, the commoners in the surrounding were keeping mum out of fear. They dared not even lift up their head. On the other hand, Su Zimo's aura did not seem any weaker although he was confronting the immortal as an ordinary man. True enough, you are a foolish mortal. The corners of the turquoise-robed man's mouth curled up slightly. His gaze was cold and aloof as he said calmly, since that is the case, from today onwards, your scholarly honors will be written off. His tone was monotonous but there was no doubt about it. The turquoise-robed man continued to say, whichever state that dares to accept this individual as an official will be declaring themselves as an enemy of Iridescent Cloud's palace and me, perfected Song Lang. At the sound of the few words, Iridescent Cloud's palace and perfected Song Lang, Chao Gang, who had been kneeling, was dumbstruck. He quickly said in a quivering voice, perfected, be rest assured. In the country of Dachi, Su Zimo will be an inferior commoner for life. An inferior commoner for life. With just a few words, Su Zimo's destiny had been decided. There was a flash of reluctance in Xianxia's eyes. On the other hand, that rascal Zhou Dingyan was looking thrilled. Su Zimo looked very calm, as if this did not impact him. After a while, Su Zimo laughed and mocked himself, if scholarly honors are so cheap, what do I need them for? Perfected Song Lang's long and narrow eyes gradually formed a line, beams of icy cold lights flashing in them. Su Zimo's provocation had aroused his murderous intent. At this moment, Zhui Feng, who was standing beside Su Zimo, suddenly became agitated and uneasy. His hooves rubbed against the ground and he neighed continuously. Su Zimo was expressionless but his heart jumped. Zhui Feng had also behaved in this way during the few occasions that he had encountered danger in the past. It is actually a spiritual beast. How dare he cause a ruckus in front of me? Perfected Song Lang gave a faint yell. He stretched out his index finger and pointed it at Zhui Feng lightly. There was no time to react. A flash of red light had already entered Zhui Feng's body. Under the gaze of everyone, a gush of scorching flames surged out from within Zhui Feng's body and engulfed Zhui Feng in a matter of moments. Swoosh, this flame was strong and was actually going to engulf Su Zimo too. Su Zimo was not as weak as the typical scholar. However, he had never seen such eccentric methods. He was completely stunned and stood rooted to the ground. With Su Zimo almost engulfed by the flames, Zhui Feng neighed sorrowfully and galloped away madly. Petrified, the crowd fled in all directions. Just after a few steps, Zhui Feng fell to the ground listlessly. In the blink of an eye, it had been burnt into a cloud of ash. Neither the corpse nor bones was left. The entire process occurred within the moments of a few breaths. Such flame definitely did not belong to the mortal world. One could just imagine. If Zhui Feng had not galloped away in time and Su Zimo were to catch on to any of the flame, his life would definitely not be spared. This is a psychic fine horse that protects its master. What a pity. Chao Gang, the wolf guard, exclaimed his regrets quietly. There was a gentle breeze. Zhui Feng's ash was floating in the air and did not dissipate for a long time. It seemed to be saying goodbye to its master. Su Zimo looked at the other party dazedly, tears welling up in his eyes. His lost and distracted demeanor made one's heart ache for him. Perfected Song Lang did not manage to kill Su Zimo on this occasion. There was a flicker of coldness in his eyes. He was having murderous intent again. Master, forget it. He is just a mortal. Why do you need to lower yourself to his level? Shenmengqi said in a low voice as she looked at the Su Zimo beneath her. She eventually could not bear to harm him. Perfected Song Lang hesitated a little. If he had to take actions continuously to deal with someone, it would certainly lower his status. Zhou Dingyun did not wish to let Su Zimo off so easily. He quickly said, Master, you have to nip this problem in the bud to eliminate it completely, in case this person becomes your greatest problem in the future. Perfected Song Lang was initially undecided. Upon hearing Zhou Dingyun's words, feelings of arrogance rose in his heart. He smirked and said, he is just an inferior commoner without any spirit root. He won't be able to cultivate for life. In terms of potential, he can't even be compared to that beast earlier. So what if I spare his inferior life? Is he fit to become the greatest problem in my life? Maybe in the next life. Zhou Dingyun secretly cursed. He did not expect his words to be counterproductive. Su Zimo was silent. He quietly picked up a handful of Zhui Feng's ash, turned and left. A hint of sarcasm flashed across Perfected Song Lang's eyes. He said lightly, although the inferior ant yearns for the sky, how can they ever touch the eagle's wings? At the sight of Su Zimo leaving unscathed, Zhou Dingyun looked indignant. If not for this person, he would not have suffered so badly in prison. At the thought of this, Zhou Dingyun's eyes turned resentful and vicious. His expression was as capricious as the weather. One was uncertain what he was scheming about. Looking at Su Zimo's lonely and sad silhouette, Shenmengqi quietly sighed in her heart that in less than half an hour, this man had lost everything. Perhaps he was only left with that pitiful pride. However, what was the use of that sigh? Second young master Su had lost his honors and became an inferior commoner. He is no different from a good. Nothing now. The two young masters of the Su family. One is good in martial arts and the other a scholar. In recent years, they have the potential to rise in power and ranks. Unexpectedly, they have been dealt with such a blow. Fortunately, elder young master Su is a Khanate expert. What's the use of being a Khanate expert? That Lord Chao of Song Lang is also a Khanate expert. Didn't he also kneel in fear upon seeing the immortal? Based on the immortal's words, second young master Su is not even fit to cultivate. I'm afraid he will eventually die of depression. Su Zimo lowered his head. He walked on quietly, seemingly oblivious to the discussions of the passers-by. Zimo, wait a minute. This voice was so familiar. Yet, the address was somewhat strange. Before today, the girl behind him had always addressed him intimately as Brother Zimo. Su Zimo continued to walk, without halting a step, Xianxia caught up with him. There were delicate beads of sweat on the tip of her nose and she was frowning slightly. Panting, she said, "Zimo, have you become a fool by studying too much? What does it matter if you kneel down for a while? It doesn't matter. But I am not willing to." Su Zimo said calmly. Xianxia was already angry at Su Zimo for not stopping for her. Upon hearing this, she was furious. She quickened her steps and blocked Su Zimo's path. "Su Zimo, sober up." Xianxia stared at Su Zimo's eyes and said loudly, "Don't think about revenge. It is impossible. You are already 17 years old and have missed the best age to learn martial arts. Moreover, you don't have the spirit root and can't cultivate at all. Even if you were to attain the postnatal or connate levels, they are mortal abilities. It is still vulnerable before the immortal." Su Zimo was silent. He looked at Xianxia quietly. Xianxia could not withstand Su Zimo's gaze. She lowered her head and said softly, "Yes, we did have a promise. I am also grateful to you for helping the Shen family all these years. But they are already a thing of the past. Moreover, we are people from two different worlds henceforth." Su Zimo laughed. He raised his eyebrow. "Is your world so great?" Xianxia said, "Zhou Dingyun and I will be leaving Pingyang town with the perfected tomorrow. I came to bid you farewell. I don't wish to argue with you on these meaningless things. Go ahead. I am not able to send you off. We will meet again if we have fate." Su Zimo was downhearted. He walked past Xianxia and moved on. Just as the two rubbed shoulders with each other, he heard Xianxia mutter softly, "Our fate has come to an end. We are separated as mortals and immortals. I'm afraid, we will not see each other again." Su Zimo paused slightly in his steps. In the end, he walked away without saying another word. Listen to the full novel at FameTV.info, direct link in the description.